Hello, and welcome to our final episode of our Common Sense series. I have taken several topics, hot topics as of late, and just kind of dove into them from a common sense perspective because there's enough stuff out there right now. And one thing I hear from a lot of people is like that I provide a common sense approach. So I thought, okay, well, let's just do this topic by topic. And we're not going to get to all the topics, but we can get to a lot of them right now. And this is the last one. I'm actually going to approach this a little bit differently today because today we are talking about questions to ask yourself before you buy the latest wellness trend. So this actually came from my assistant. I have this wonderful girl who helps me just do some of the back end stuff after I record and edit, and she does a little bit of the back end, and I'm so grateful for her. And she said, hey, you're doing this Common Sense series. I think you should talk about red light masks and vibration plates. And I said, well, that is an interesting topic. Let me think about that. And as I thought about it, I decided that this was something that was a bit broader, which is all of the health things that are out there that we're just being inundated with. Now, full disclosure, I'm actually not on social media anymore. I haven't posted, I think in 2 years on Instagram, more or less. I get on and off Facebook for personal reasons, for neighborhood groups or something like that. I am only on for really a few minutes every day. And so I'm not seeing a lot of this, but I know it's out there, and I'm seeing these in discussions, and you just come across them. And then of course I have clients, I have friends, I have neighbors who know I follow this stuff, and they're like, well, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? So I thought, okay, well, this is what we're going to do. Rather than me talking about products individually, I'm going to kind of turn the tables on you and give you some tools and some ways of thinking before you go out there and purchase whatever it is, fill in the blank. I mean, let's be honest. There are a ton of things out there that I've seen. I know you've seen the red light masks, cold plunge tubs, vibration plates, vagus nerve stimulators, hydration water bottles, sleep maxing gadgets. Like sleep maxing is now like a term. I mean, is it in the dictionary? I don't know. But it's basically like all of these things to help us sleep really well at night, which of course, I love my sleep. But there's a lot of things and a lot of products and supplements and all of that people are saying can help, which, I mean, preparing for sleep could really be a full-time job by this point, I feel like. And I'm going to say this now, and I will say it again. I have no problem with any of these. If you want to do it, great. I actually have one friend, I like to Marco Polo. I have one friend who more often than not will come on with her red light mask on while Marco Poloing. And it's delightful. It's totally like, I have no problem with any of these, but I do think that we need to take a step back and use our own discernment before we buy anything, because at the end of the day, it's our choice. That's what this episode is for, is to provide you some questions to ask yourself so that you can discern if this is right for you. And of course, if you are like me and you like to do your own research, I'm going to give you just a little mini lesson at the end on how to actually research these things yourself, because Googling it may not be enough. And honestly, neither may AI. I mean, we've got to have the right questions. We have to have the right inputs. And I'm going to share some of those things with you later. So let's talk about these 7 questions. Number 1, question 1, does this claim make sense? Like, step back, think about this. Think about the common sense application to whatever this is. So for example, and by the way, full disclosure, I used AI to help me come up with this episode outline. And I do use AI. My preferred one is Claude, but it doesn't really matter. Claude helps me come up with a lot of this. And I tell you this right now because Claude gave me this one and I'm like, I didn't know this was a thing. This is new to me, but apparently it's out there. So hydrogen water bottles. Have you heard of them? I had not, but maybe you have. But I guess the claim to hydrogen water bottles is that they fight inflammation, they boost energy at the cellular level. I guess I would just say to this, like, does this pass the sniff test? Because I think for the most part, if we just drink water and drink enough water, then that's probably going to help with your energy. And that's probably going to help, a little bit at least with inflammation, with just flushing everything out. So is it the hydrogen water bottle, or is it just water in general? There's something else out there called a vagus nerve stimulator. And though we talked about vagus nerve in our last episode, but these stimulators apparently promise to regulate your entire nervous system with a handheld device. The underlying science of this real, but do you really need a $300 gadget to actually do what they say? Or can you employ some breathing? And last episode, I talk about different kinds of breathing to help stimulate your vagus nerve. So in this question 1 of does this claim actually make sense, I want you to ask yourself this: how dramatic is the claim? Because the more dramatic it is, the more questions it deserves. And I think the more skepticism. And I don't use that word lightly, but if it is coming in with all of this hyperbolic language, I think that deserves a pause and a common sense approach of like, but does this really make sense? Is this how people have thrived for centuries? Just kind of give yourself that chance to ask yourself that and to think about it. And if you have to suspend logic to believe it, that's information. That might be something to pay attention to. Question 2 is this being positioned as a magic wand? I've said it before. There is no magic wand. There never has been, there never will be. So this also goes into that hyperbolic language. There's a lot of red flag language to listen to. So, things like the one thing and finally and what doctors don't want you to know, works for everyone, ancient secret. I was noticing today while I was having my lunch and reading headlines, it was like, I thought, oh my gosh, there's a formula here. It is health professional swears by, wants you to know, never does X. And it was like health professional, and X. So look, yes, absolutely, we need to pay attention to our health professionals. Does that mean one cardiologist's opinion on whether they should be plant-based or eat only meat or whatever, does that mean it applies to everyone? No, because number one, our bodies are all different. And number two, they may be learning from different things, or they might have their own agenda. So, all of that kind of stuff. Sleep mixing is a great example here. So there is just this whole ecosystem of products. There's the mouth tape, which, mark my words, and I don't say this word very often, I will never try that. Why? Because I have allergies and I think I might die if I ever put a piece of tape on my mouth. Like I might not be able to breathe. I don't think I breathe through my mouth when I sleep. I've asked my husband. He was like, no, I think you sleep with your mouth closed. I'm not willing to try it. I just don't care. I'm not putting mouth tape on. There's the weighted blankets. There's the magnesium stacks. There's like all of these different things. And they all say this will fix your sleep. Like this one product will fix your sleep. But no one product will fix your sleep. All of the magnesium stacks in the world are not going to help if you are having caffeine too late, if you are not paying attention to your nervous system, if you're eating really, really big meals consistently, if you're having a lot of wine or alcohol. Like magnesium just does not cover all of those things. And so that one thing, of course, is not going to be the one thing, the magic wand to fix your problem. This actually brings me back to the episode I did on the blue zones, which was season 18, episode 13. And I love using these blue zones as a litmus test, because these are groups of people who are living the longest, healthiest lives, and they're really, at least for the research, they're not doing any of this. They're moving naturally. They are eating real food. They are sleeping well. They are living in community. They have purpose. Many of them have faith. I mean, like these are the things that are keeping them alive, not mouth tape. Okay, I'm getting a little snarky with the mouth tape, sorry. But they don't have one magic wand. And I believe that we don't need a magic wand either. So if it sounds like a magic wand, put it down and just keep asking your questions. Number 3, who is telling you to buy this and what's their incentive? Okay, everyone here is probably aware that most of the people who are selling things online are affiliates. For whatever it's worth, currently, the only affiliate relationship I have is Amazon, which means I get like 1 cent whenever you purchase something in one of my newsletters. So I'm not keeping the lights on with that. I can tell you that right now. Many years ago, I was a Skirt Sports affiliate, which meant if you purchased a skirt, it was the same price for you, and I got a very small commission. Beyond that, and I'm doing this off the top of my head, I don't think I've ever been an affiliate. I've never done ads. I have intentionally never monetized this podcast because I wanted my word to be meaningful to you. And I never wanted you to question why I was selling something or why I was recommending something. I was never selling anything. That being said, there are people who make their living as affiliates, and that's okay. They get to do that. And you get to discern whether or not what they're trying to sell to you actually is something if you need or if it's something that they want you to have. And again, I have no problem with this. I have no problem with affiliate marketing, but I think we have to walk in with our eyes wide open. And let's be honest, like I have listened to plenty of podcasts. I have received plenty of newsletters from people who are affiliates, who are doing advertising, and they'll have the same problem and they will market different products over the course of a year or two. That's their prerogative. They get to do that. But what that does is it makes their recommendation in my world, for me, it makes their recommendation go down some. Because to me, I question the loyalty, maybe is the right word, and how true what they are saying really is. Let's take this red light therapy trend that we have seen everywhere. Well, that exploded largely because celebrities were gifted them and featured them in content. And then, of course, that trickles down, right? Because someone sees something and they might absolutely love it and then they want to recommend it. But now, we're seeing red light masks and all of that stuff everywhere. Does that mean they're not good for you? No, but it just know what it is. It's marketing. It's not necessarily an endorsement. The other thing to think about is the product driven by testimonials. So like, this product helped me, this cured my fill in the blank, this is what I needed to be able to sleep, this is what made me not have night sweats. Testimonials are great, but that's not driven by science and that's not driven by research. There is a very big difference. Keep in mind, most research does not have 100% validation rate. Of course, some things are going to work for some people and some things are not going to. Now, maybe that is 80% works well and 20% doesn't, and that's pretty darn good statistics. But for the 20%, it didn't work for them. So just because one person on TikTok or Instagram or wherever said, this worked amazingly for me, that's great. It worked great for them, but it doesn't mean that it's going to work great for you. So keep that in mind. Who's pitching it? Conversely, when a credentialed, research-driven professional recommends something, that makes me pause. And I will pay attention to that. It's funny, we had Christina Walsh with Tighten Your Tinkler. She's one of the business partnership with Jen Lorman. And Christina came on and we got off on some rabbit trail on that episode. And somehow the vibration plates were brought up. And she was like, oh yeah. She's like, I think those are pretty good. Those, when done in combination with strength training, can really be great for your bone density. And I was like, oh, it was like record. I was like, what? I said, I'm really surprised to hear you. She said, well, the research is there. We've looked it up. So that made me pause because I don't feel like they're out there pitching everything. I get their emails. Now, I'm not on their, again, I don't see their Instagram, but I trust them because I know that they are research driven. So who is the recommendation coming from? Question 4, what does the actual research say? Not the real, but the research, and how strong is it? This is where most people stop because, let's be honest, it takes a little bit of effort. Or maybe we'll Google it, we'll read one article, and then decide. But I think it's worth asking, especially as we go up in impact either on our wallet or on what the product is there any research on it? I mean, that's the first line. But then something deeper is the research strong and consistent and applicable to me? If there's research out there stating that 80% of people were positively impacted with something, but there were only 10 people in the study, I mean, yeah, that's good numbers, but we need a larger amount. And so we'll talk here in a little bit about research. And the other thing is sometimes what we'll see is people will pull out bits and pieces of research rather than providing the whole thing. They'll just take like the highlight, they'll take the headline. For example, vibration plates. Let's take that. Real research does exist for showing bone density in postmenopausal women, particularly when it's used longer than 6 months. But it works alongside strength training. It is not a replacement for strength training. So if you want to get a vibration plate, go for it. I think it has some great benefits for your bone density. However, please lift heavy things at the same time. That's one element that you can get some false hope when you hear, oh, vibration plates are great for bone density. Yes, with strength training. So keep in mind, like you might just be getting a headline out of this rather than the full reel. Another example is the infrared sauna. There is some promising cardiovascular and recovery data, but most of those studies are really small. So hold it loosely. Yes, the research can show benefits, but the studies are small, and then that's where you need to overlay that with the cost. Like if you're wanting to buy an infrared sauna, I don't know how much those are because I don't have one, but like that's a lot of money. And do you want to invest that kind of money when you can also get cardiovascular benefit from high intensity stuff with body weight? Like go out there and do some running or some heavy walking or walk up hills or get on a bike. Like good for your heart. You know, people have had strong hearts for a long time without red light therapy. You know how you can recover? Sleep, eat your protein, drink your water. Like you don't have to have these high-tech things to accomplish your goals. Like you can get these things in other ways. This is not an infrared sauna is not the only way to improve your cardiovascular fitness and recover well. Can it help? Maybe, I don't know. I mean, the research studies are small, so maybe it can, but it's not the only way. And like I said, I will kind of give you a real quick start guide to researching online. So hang with me for a few more questions that I want to get through. Question 5 is, what problem are you trying to solve, and is it the right tool for you? So this is where your discernment comes into you and how your body was designed and how you will use things and how you know your body. So let's talk about like an Oura Ring or a Whoop or even the Apple Watch. That can give you real data. That can be super helpful. But if checking your deep sleep every morning stresses you out, it may not be the right tool for you, because you know what is also not good for you? Being stressed out all the time. Those vagus nerve stimulators, so those are like wearable devices that send electrical pulses or vibrations to your neck or your ear, and they claim to calm your nervous system. Those may be great. Those may really work. Caring about your vagus nerve, something good to care about and to pay attention. But you know how else you can do it? You can do some mindful breathing. Again, go back and listen to the last episode, do that diaphragmatic breathing. You can foam roll, you can meditate, you can prayer, you can move gently or cathartically. Like these are things that you can do without these several $100 devices. Yeah, maybe they do work. But is it right for you, and will you use it? Will you be consistent with it? Like these are the kinds of questions to ask yourself. Vibration plates, like I said, go for it. If you want to get one, go for it. And I hear that they have good things with your lymphatic system. It can be great for bone density, but it's not a replacement for your weight training. It's not a replacement for strength training, for jumping, for pulling. I mean, all of these things that I have talked about. A gentle question to start yourself with is, what is my body actually needing right now? I am so guilty of seeing something and being like, ooh, I need it. Ooh, Insta purchase. Oh, yeah, I want to try that. But do we really need that? And I'm more guilty of that with clothes, if I'm totally honest. But like with these products, like just pause for a minute. I heard great guidance one time, and it was something like, before you buy anything, stop and give yourself, it was either like 2 days or 2 weeks to think about it. And if you're still thinking about it, you can go back and purchase it. And I have used that. And I think that is a great rule of thumb. Maybe do the same thing with all of these health products. Like if you're still thinking about it without it showing up in your feed all the time, maybe then it's worth exploring and doing your research on it, and maybe you can get it. Otherwise, if you forget about it, you may not. So just, something to think about, something to pray about. We want to steward our resources, our time, our body. And these are, I believe, are important to God. Like, we want to steward everything he has given us and not just, flit it away with whatever the latest purchase is for getting a great night's sleep. And I know, look, I get how desperate we can get with sleep and how poor our sleep can be in this season of our life. So if you have tried all of the things, go back and listen to my Common Sense Sleep episode if you want. If you have tried all the things, then go for it. But try the things that are low-hanging fruit first before jumping into the next best magic wand. And I kind of skipped ahead to question 6, which is this a good use of your resources, your time, your money, your energy? All of these things cost money, okay? And let's be real honest, all of these things come from a place of privilege. And look, I am dripping in privilege, for so many reasons, right? If number one, the color of my skin. However, it's important to remember that just because we're seeing it a lot and we're hearing about it a lot, that doesn't mean that everyone is doing it. It might just be that the circles that you are in are talking about it more. And maybe it is helpful, but maybe it's not. And it's okay if you pass on that because it's not a good use of your resources. I mean, cold plunge tubs are like $1,000 to $5,000. Red light masks are anywhere between $200 and $500 or more. Vibration plates can be $100 to $1,000. Vagus nerve stimulators, $300 to $800. Wearables, $300 to $500. This is a lot of money, you guys. And I mean, I am pretty sure we can all agree that we are not in the best of economic times. So it's worth asking, is this a good use of my resources? And if you have the kind of money that you can spend on that stuff, it's also worth asking, what else could that money do for your health? Shameless plug, you can hire a personal trainer. If you've never worked out, before you buy the vibration plate, hire a few sessions with your personal trainer so you can learn how to strength train. Maybe it's adjusting your grocery budget for food that nourishes you well. Maybe it's buying a new pair of walking shoes so you can get 300 to 500 miles out of your new walking shoes and you can, use them for a while. So just, things to think about as well. And time is a resource. So all of the sleep maxing, like I said, that could be a full-time job. I mean, I think some people spend 2 hours getting ready for bed or something like that. If that's you, if you have time for that, great, go for it. But that's not a requirement to sleep well. I'll just say that. If your sleep optimization is making you go to bed too late or is keeping you from doing meaningful things with people who mean a lot to you at night, it might be worth considering, shortening that up a little bit. You don't have to spend a lot of money and you don't have to use a ton of resources to take good care of yourself. Pull it back, use your common sense. And finally, number 7, does this align with how you want to steward your body and your values? The one magic wand, the one new product, the one thing that everyone is talking about may help. It may not. But what we really want to do is make sure that we are approaching life and approaching our health from a holistic and faith-grounded point. If we are focusing so much on all of the things, then is that taking our heart away from where God wants us focusing? Is it taking our attention away from others to love and serve others and on to ourselves? Obviously, I have the tools. Get them if it works for you, but not every tool is right for every person. Even if it works on someone else, even if there's a testimonial about it, that doesn't mean it's going to work for you. And if it is so time consuming and so energy consuming and money consuming that it takes you away from doing the things that you feel like God is calling you to do, it's probably not right for you right now, at least. We just want to be intentional. We want to be intentional about everything, which is really just stewardship. It's making choices that are aligned with how God wants us living right now. Okay, so now that you have the questions, I told you I would give you a little quick start guide to AI and or into research and to getting the answers. So let me just spend a few minutes on here. So we'll just call this a quick start guide. And of course, AI is really helpful. But this is the important thing to remember. The better your prompts and inputs into AI, the better information you're going to get back. So rather than saying, our cold plunge is good, then you're probably going to get a consolidated answer and it may not be exactly tailored to you. So, for example, I got on Google and I went into AI mode and I said, are cold plunges good for you? This is what Google AI answered with. Cold plunges are good for some people, but they are not universally healthy and carry severe safety risks. For healthy individuals, short sessions can significantly reduce post-workout muscle soreness and boost short-term mental focus. However, recent clinical studies indicate that they can actively hinder muscle growth if done immediately after weight training. Furthermore, the extreme cold places sudden strain on the heart, making the practice dangerous for anyone with underlying cardiovascular conditions. I got to be honest, I was actually relatively impressed with that because it was pretty well balanced, which is good. But then we need to start digging in a little bit more. So instead of saying, are these good? Then maybe you can try, what does peer-reviewed research, so peer-reviewed is typically the gold standard because it means it's done the research and someone else has looked at that and validated what they've said. What does peer-reviewed research say about, let's just use vibration plates, whole body vibration for bone density in postmenopausal women? Please cite your sources. So that gets very specific and it prompts your AI to go and actually pull sources and show your research. You can also, after they do that, you can even say like, give me the actual study names, the authors, the journals where these were published. Again, that gets a little bit deeper. Or you can say something like, is this from a peer-reviewed journal or a summary article? Summary articles aren't terrible at all, but you want to know where your information is coming from for sure. There are a few tools that are really helpful when you're doing your research. Number one is Perplexity. This is kind of the best starting point for research. It'll give you citations built in and it shows the sources as it goes. It's funny, when I wrote my book for young women, Your Core Strength, there were some things in there that I realized later. I was like, ooh, I need to, like, I know this is true, but I need to cite my sources. Perplexity was really helpful for that because I was like, is this true? And can you validate it with some sources? And so it provided me a lot of sources. That was hugely helpful, huge, in citing my sources for that, because like I knew it to be true, but it had been in my ecosystem for so long that I didn't read it anywhere. Anyway, it was really helpful for that. So Perplexity, Perplexity. That's really helpful. Consensus is another one that is specifically built to search peer-reviewed research. So when you want actual studies, that's a great place to go. And then, of course, Claude and ChatGPT, those are always kind of neck and neck with one being better than the other. And it depending on what month it is. Those are great for analysis. It's great for summarizing. It's great for thinking through the nuance. It's not as good on sourcing. Like sometimes Claude will tell me something and I'm like, show me your source on that. And then it's not unusual for it to say, oh, actually, I was wrong. So keep pushing. You're not going to hurt his feelings. I kind of felt for a while, I was like, oh, I don't want to hurt his feelings. It has no feelings. It's artificial. But keep pushing back on that just to make sure that you're getting correct information if you are indeed researching things. You can also go directly to websites. PubMed is a great one that is with the National Institutes of Health. That is where peer-reviewed studies live. If AI cites a study, search it there to confirm it's real, and you can read the abstract, which is kind of like the top portion, like the summary portion. You can find PubMed at pubmed.ncbi.nlm.nih.gov, or just type in Google PubMed, PUBMED. You can also go to NIH, that's the National Institutes of Health. That is the primary federal research agency. Unfortunately, they have had less funding recently, but they still have a wealth of research studies available. And then you have places like Mayo Clinic, Cleveland Clinic, Harvard Health. Those are physician reviewed. There are not any like ad driven agendas. Those can be helpful. Those are going to be more of like a summary article like we were talking about earlier, but they're still really helpful. Another place I will point you to, and you're going to get to meet Kate here in a few weeks, is the How to Fitness podcast. That is hosted by Kate Lyman and Michael Ujoa, and they do deep dives into one particular subject, and they do an excellent job. They just provide a masterclass in doing research, providing a lot of different views. I really appreciate what they do there. So you can always go over to the How to Fitness podcast and do a topic search and see if what you're wanting to learn is there. And even though you won't be looking at the actual data yourself, I do trust them to provide quality, unbiased information. You don't have to become a research scientist for all of this. You just kind of need to ask one more question than you did before. So whatever you're doing, just ask a follow-up question and see where that leads you. I hope this episode just gives you the permission to pause, to take a step back, to use your own discernment in all of these latest trends. And this is as of summer 2026. There will be more. Probably by September, if you're listening to this in September, there will be more products out there that are being quoted as the next latest and greatest thing. You can get it. That's fine. This is up to you and what you want to do. However, it's okay to question. Curiosity on all of this is good. Discernment is even better. Both together are the goal. The wellness industry will always have something new to sell you. Your job isn't to buy it or even to reject it. Your job is to care for the body God gave you in a way that is realistic, in a way that is sustainable, in a way that is true to who you are and to who you are called to be. And with all of that, you can move forward with grace and strength. Hey, as I said, this is the last in this series. I have an important bonus episode coming up. So be sure to subscribe to this if you don't already so you can catch that bonus episode coming up on Friday. Okay, that is all for today. Go out there and have a graced day.